I did a video about the backfire effect, and I wanted to follow up with this video about confirmation bias so that you'll have at least a basic understanding or foundation of what it means, and the backfire effect being part of confirmation bias. All right, so confirmation bias is a cognitive bias where individuals tend to seek out, interpret, and favor information that confirms existing beliefs or hypotheses. This unconscious process leads to downplaying or disregarding evidence that contradicts pre-existing views. That means that, there's selective information gathering where people tend to seek sources and information aligning with existing beliefs, biased interpretations, even with neutral or ambiguous evidence, people interpret it to support those existing ideals. Differential recall. People are more likely to remember information confirming their beliefs and forget or overlook challenging information. What causes confirmation bias? Confirmation bias is often unintentional or can be driven by a desire to feel good about ourselves and our beliefs. Remember that the backfire effect was a part of confirmation bias, which is also part of your belief system linked to your identity. It can be unintentional, or it is driven by the desire to feel good about your beliefs because your beliefs are linked to your identity. Consistency and validating information are sought, which can boost confidence. The issue is, though, that it can lead to poor decision making. Focusing only on confirming information may cause crucial details or alternatives to be missed, leading to flawed decisions. Reinforcement of biases. Confirmation bias can strengthen existing prejudices and viewpoints, making it harder to consider different perspectives. Limited perspective. This would narrow the view and limit the ability for a person to understand complex issues or appreciate different viewpoints. This is a big one. The spread of misinformation. Social media filter bubbles and algorithms can exacerbate confirmation bias by exposing individuals to agreeable information. You hear this constantly when they say, oh, there's the other side of YouTube or the other side of Facebook or the other side of Twitter or the other side of TikTok, where people are in groups and have biases that, they're getting information that's agreeable to them and their views. Examples. Again, we have the political view example where someone with strong political convictions may only consume news sources supporting that party's platform and dismiss opposing viewpoints. There's examples in investing. An investor might focus on positive news about a stock they own while ignoring signs of trouble. Research. There's a problem with the things existing in research. Researchers might unconsciously favor data that supports their hypothesis, potentially impacting findings. I remember a well-known economist saying, if you torture the data long enough, you can get it to tell you anything. That's a quote. You should look it up, find out what he was talking about. Combating confirmation bias. So you have to intentionally work to combat biases because it's normal for us to want to confirm our beliefs that are linked to our identity. But what do you do when you find out that you may be wrong? Do you wake up with the understanding that some of your beliefs may be based off of faulty information, things that you didn't have information about? Talk about right. History, how history is constantly changed and revised to meet the narrative of certain people within that time frame. So if your biases are based off of faulty or revised history, you owe it to yourself to go do some research and inquiry, challenge yourself. So being able to have this introspective or reflective has to be within you, intrinsic motivation within you. It's not going to come from an external source. So if you want to combat confirmation bias in someone else, you have to first reflect upon your own biases and seek diverse perspectives. Actively look for information and opinions that challenge existing beliefs. Practice critical thinking. This is what I was just talking about. Evaluate information objectively and question assumptions. Engage with different viewpoints. Have conversations with people who hold opposing opinions and try to understand their reasoning. Consider the opposite. Intentionally explore the validity of ideas that contradict the initial stance. Okay, that requires intentionality. Like I said, you have to be motivated to do this, to challenge your own beliefs before you challenge somebody else's. Okay, understanding and mitigating the effects of confirmation bias can lead to becoming more informed, open-minded, and a better decision maker. I just call it using reasoning and rationale. A lot of times we're looking for people or places or things, whatever you want to talk about, to validate us, but nothing is the extreme. What do I mean by that? Things are not always a certain way or never that way. You hear these kind of framing in sentences where it's always or it's never. That's an extreme. Just challenge yourself not to have the extremist mindset of it's always that way or never this way. And research and inquire so that you are not led by a confirmation bias that keeps you away from the truth. And so that you can recognize when information is being created or narrated in such a way that reaffirms the speaker's own value set, right? That's typically what we see when we see people have an agenda. And it's okay to have an agenda, but what I mean more so is in the cultural, societal, or political sense. Oftentimes those agendas, economic too, value the person's ideas, the person's moral compass that created them, and they couple that with data to be able to reinforce that without considering how it could be harmful to someone else, without considering how those priorities on that agenda only fit their narrative and don't really consider the experiences of other people. So just make sure that you're very cautious. It's not always or never.